So this is one of those videos I make about videos that I'm gonna make. Um, I think I may have spent a lot of time down the YouTube rabbit hole of amazing polyglots and linguists who I admire so much, like Steve Kaufman and Lindy Boats. I don't want to name some because then I'm not naming others, and like that's never cool. And we all need to not live in high school in our souls anymore, so I don't want to play that game. But so many awesome, amazing polyglots who give me so much inspiration and hope that I always get these ideas like, then I'm going to do a whole video series on this. So then I make something saying I'm going to make the video series and I don't follow it up with that many videos. I've actually got a whole new batch on Korean coming up for anyone who watches my Korean videos. So this is an announcement that I am going to begin Finno-Ugric languages, and this is something that I never thought I'd do. I think I turned it almost into like a joke in my head of like, yeah, like that day I learned Estonian, as a joke of like, lengths I would never go to in my language learning. And I thought that I would just announce this because it also raises some interesting questions about learning languages in groups or not, these huge big online debates where everyone in the world has an opinion on whether or not you should learn languages from the same language family at the same time or not, especially if you're at beginner level with all of them. So this is going to be an experiment in that I'm also going to kind of comment on at the same time, and I would love to hear your opinions because I don't think there's a right answer. There are probably academic papers making right answers or wrong answers. I also believe in evidence. However, I haven't made up my mind on that. So I have never been in this situation before where I'm going to learn the three in this case, but any more than one language in the same language family at the same time from beginner level. I've never been in this situation before, so it's also going to be an experiment for me in whether or not that's a good way to kind of approach language learning. So just kind of like walk this back a bit. Like I've learned languages from the same language family before, but I never started out at beginner level with all of them at once. So like with Latinate languages, Romance languages, like I had like crappy schoolgirl French, which I then like layered over with slightly better French. Actually, I improved my French best first, and then like Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. I didn't want to learn Spanish for so long. I'll make a separate video about that, in the same way as I like deliberately didn't want to learn how to play the guitar for like 20 years. I think I just being contrarian, and being contrarian is emotionally immature. So like with Latinate languages, I had first one, which is also the language in which I like first learned how to learn or not learn languages, which is French. Like similarly with Slavic languages, I started out with BHS, with Bosnian actually, from my time in Sarajevo. So I had that like baseline of that language before I then moved over to Russian, and then since took Ukrainian. I'm not taking the lid off the like BHS language boundary thing because like there are enough people on the internet who want to argue politics. I just want to talk about languages because they make me happy. Okay. Seriously, like give me a break. I work on human rights in my professional life. Like let me have my fun time just like talking about like how language apps make me happy. And similarly, like with North Germanic languages, I spent, a year like really anchoring myself in Icelandic and kind of like playing around with, Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish. So I similarly, like there's still an asymmetry in my language learning experience there, where I'm really like grounding myself in one, like, which is kind of atypical because like Icelandic sort of speciated a bit more than the others. But I had a super cool, interesting conversation with a Faroese person the other day about similarities between Icelandic and Faroese, which is very interesting, and how the different North Germanic languages developed. So with this, this will be the first time that I take 3 languages from the same language family and start at beginner baseline level with all of them with absolutely no prior knowledge of any. So with Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian, I know no words from those languages and I know nothing about those languages. But I am now committing to doing a daily study of the 3 to see whether that's something like whether what it kind of yields that's kind of interesting. It's been so interesting, like playing with this, like the similarities, the differences, words I know, what words still are the same in the world where there's nothing same. Like my joke with Hungarian was always like, you can't decode it, because like normally when you have a bit of an ear for languages, you turn up somewhere, if you don't know Portuguese, but you can read the signs in like Portuguese from like other languages that that are Indo-European. You can kind of like usually find like an inroad into them, and you just like there was like no inroad into Estonian, Finnish, or Hungarian from any like Indo-European background. So I'm kind of excited that that's going to be like a new chapter for me. So I'm going to make a video about each one of them, and then I'll make an update in 6 months about how I'm getting on with them. There's another reason why I'm doing which is that I wrote a book that's set at the Central European University in Budapest. There are long-winded reasons why I set it there. The Central European University is also no longer in Budapest, but I'm not talking about politics on the internet. Just like academic freedom is cool, and shutting down universities is not cool. Orban. Yeah, I set a novel there for kind of complex reasons. There were reasons why I didn't want to set it in another university instead. And I've always had this commitment, like anytime I go somewhere, every time I live somewhere, I should learn the language of the place. I never actually lived in Hungary. I went there to research this novel. I went there to research this book. But I think as part of my like letter of love to the best of Europe, which is what my book is meant to be about, the best of Europe and the best of like those intellectual traditions and trajectories, which I think Central European University embodied, very sadly, given how everything turned out over the last few years with the encroachments on academic freedom in Hungary, that this is something that I should do to sort of like send my love to Budapest. And then with the other 2, I don't have any like links to either Finland or Estonia, except one of the coolest people I know in Reykjavik is a Finnish woman who is really interesting to talk to, because she talks like the range of the language that she has. The 2 Venn diagram circle of like Scandinavia, which Iceland's not a part of, and Nordicness, which Finland is not a part of, like these 2 kind of outliers, and how she sees, so interesting talking to her, like how does she perceive like Norway or Denmark, Sweden. It's really, she's wonderful. And also with Estonia, I also don't have a link there, except a close friend of mine went to work there in her 20s. And also they're just like the cool e-democracy people, so anyone interested in like digital democracy likes Estonia, and they're awesome in that way. But yeah, I never thought I would do this actually. I didn't make a big drama out of it the way that I stupidly and egotistically made a drama. I was never going to learn Spanish, which at some point, like, really like messed up way became like part of my identity, like someone who will not learn Spanish, because everyone learns Spanish, which was juvenile. And the good thing about life is that we can shed our snake skins of former selves and go on to be more decent people than we were when we were young. But we'll see how we get on with it. I'm really excited. I feel like they're all so fascinating. I love, there's a Finnish novelist who I really love, and I find Estonian digital stuff really, really interesting. And then like Hungary is very close to my heart because of Central European University. But I never thought I would do this. So I'll make a video on each, and then I'll post an update in 6 months. This is not a big part of my language learning. I'm still focusing on like the main other ones that I'm running my series on. But yeah, this is like another little, like this can only add, like it's okay as well, you know. Like I also think when we make strict edicts for ourselves, I'm a this person, not a that person, or defining yourself in opposition to something, that's not always a really great way to be in the world as well. So so I'm going to try, because it's a new thing and it's nice to try new things. It's good for the brain and it's good for the heart. We'll see how it goes.